I'm Alex.
And I'm Rob.
I'm from Novi Sad, Serbia.
And I'm from New York. Alex and I started dating after meeting on a German cruise ship where we were entertainers.
And now we are in a long-distance relationship.
Until we can be together again, we decided to start a podcast.
We may come from different backgrounds, but that's exactly what keeps the conversation going for hours.
We can't wait for you to listen to this episode.
So sit back and enjoy it.
Because we have a lot to talk about. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of We Have a Lot to Talk About. Today, we will be talking about travel, a little mix of cruise ship life, a little mix of international relationships. You know, we'll cover a lot of ground today. But Alex and I are both ecstatic to introduce our two guests, Bjorn, Nabbe, and then Anna. I just need you to say your full name because
please.
It's so long.
Anna Sophie Bell-Burgess, Anikeyeva. Hello.
Welcome.
So, of course, we know you guys from being on Aida Cruises now over a year ago.
I know.
Cruise ship.
Yes, on the cruise ship. But you two have a history with Aida and with each other that's even longer than since we've known each other. Years.
Yeah, Bjorn.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, I'm going to clear that up because that could make my husband really jealous. But by history, we have worked with each other, I think 4 contracts, was it, Bjorn?
Oh God, it was 2016 was the first. It was Diva, Bella, Cara. So yeah, 4 in total.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So we've known each other for, I can't even do maths. We're 2021. Yeah, 5 years we've known each other now.
Oh,
Yeah, that's probably like more than a year on the ship together, I guess.
much
If the contracts are like
four
more, huh?
contracts. Yeah.
Yeah, but depending, sometimes contract is like 4 months, sometimes it's 6. Who knows?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, much more. You're right.
Yeah, but yeah, it was all. I mean, if you take in the rehearsal period, it was definitely 6 months every
Yeah,
time.
Yeah, you're right.
I would say
You're
almost
right.
2 years. Oh my God.
Constantly together.
Yeah.
So share with the listeners more about this beautiful relationship that you guys have. So how'd you guys meet?
So we do have a special name for each other, which is a 4-letter word. It's not very friendly, but it is. We literally start every message or every conversation off with our little nickname to each other.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even call him, like, when you talk about Bjorn, I'm like, Bjorn who? You don't even know who that is. I think when I first met Bjorn, I didn't like him at all. We first met in a rehearsal room, and
This
I
is
just
funny
thought,
because I've never even heard of her first impression of me, so that is funny.
so I remember thinking he was very stuck up and very reserved. Didn't make such an effort with anyone. It was just very I also noticed just how blunt he was and direct, which I've come to learn is a Dutch thing, but also is just, Bjorn, just he is who he is. There's no
Did you genuinely feel that way about me?
I did, but we didn't get close until I don't think we got close till the end of our second contract, maybe the middle through our second contract. We were fine on the first contract.
Whoa.
But I think we got really close in the second contract.
We opened the can of worms.
Yeah.
I don't remember that. As in, but I don't remember it taking 1.5 contract for that to happen.
It's like, I was obsessed with you always.
No, we were fine. We were close, but our first, because we went. Go on.
I do remember in the beginning I was closer to another girl that I had done my first contract with. And then me and her were both going on Diva. And that's where Anna was. Now, on the other, from my point of view, I liked Anna right away. I don't remember at all thinking that Anna was not a nice person. So I'm slightly shocked that she doesn't.
I know. I never
me.
thought you wasn't a nice person. You were just quite reserved, and I just found it a little hard to break through at first. But you know me, I'm so clingy and I'm so sensitive, so that was all in my head. And then you can't get rid of me now. But Kate, I do have to say, is now a really good a really close friend of both of ours. She actually lives only 40 minutes away from me. Her husband is also Ukrainian, and he was a dancer. They met on the ships. So when my husband can finally come here, we're all going to be together, which is amazing. I've just realised...
That's awesome.
When you're doing a podcast, because you know I'm speaking to you on video now and I can see you whilst we do this, I'm actually just, you know, I'm doing mannerisms as well while we speak, as if people will be able to see me. So that's fun.
Yeah.
That's just what happens with the podcast, you know.
Yeah, and also performers, so...
Yeah.
That's true. That is true. It's like you get turned on when you see not turned on, but you know what I mean. You turn your...
Wow, Anna, really...
I don't even know how to start that. You become that... Yeah, we're moving on.
behave.
But changing the subject back, but I love Bjorn now. I couldn't... Yeah, I think, he's like my best friend. He's my best Aida friend.
It just took her a year and a half.
No, I loved you from the beginning. I was just...
No, you didn't.
I didn't.
Truth has been spoken.
I didn't hate you. I just knew that you were very, I don't know. Yeah.
I maybe I think I sometimes just have a very different image of how I come across on people, because maybe I do come off very reserved and a bit of a C word when people first meet me. I don't know.
Bjorn is the type of person that I will send pictures to when I'm on the toilet. Like, he's like, I love him so much, so he knows that.
So, I guess, we've established you guys did cruising. Obviously, with cruising, you guys travel. My question is, did you ever travel before you were on a cruise ship?
I did. When I left my college, so I studied musical theater in the Netherlands, and then I did international student visa program at the Broadway Dance Center in New York City. And that was the time that was my first time really traveling on my own, really outside of the Netherlands and outside of Europe, to a different country, like a different continent, and being completely on my own. And I remember at that time, there was no internet on cell phones. There was, but it was, you know, when you go from Europe to the States, I didn't have internet. So the guy that I was renting the apartment from, I just had to trust that at a certain time he was going to show up in New York City and pray to God that he would be there. And thankfully he was, but it could have gone very differently. I was a very trusting human being at that moment, but it worked out. But yeah, so that is actually what I had done travel-wise before I started with Aida, as in like a big travel.
So how long were you in New York?
4 months. Yeah, 4 months.
Nice.
Yeah, I came in September and I left in January.
So how was that experience, your first big trip was to a place like New York City? How did you adjust? Did you have like any sort of culture shock when you first got there?
No, I mean...
Oh, that's awesome.
I mean, yes, but I was so excited. I had such a fire in me to go there, to go to that school, to meet people. I wanted nowhere else to be than there. So I was just excited. Plus, what made it very comfortable in a way is that we were all international students. So I didn't come in a classroom with 50 Americans and be the only one not from that country. I was in a group with people from Japan, Sweden, Czech Republic, Brazil, Australia. So we were all in the same pond, you know? It was like we were all strangers in that city. So that immediately made a bond for all of us, and it was amazing. It was so fun.
All right, Anna, how about you? First time traveling.
Gosh, first time traveling on my own would be to Australia when I was 21. Before, I think it was the year before, maybe 2 years before I got Aida. But, I mean, it doesn't really count because I travelled on my own over there, but it was to go and visit my brother. My brother lives in Australia. However, I felt that was a big step for me because it was such a long flight. And so at the time, I was like, this is so fun.
How long is that flight?
Yeah, it's like a day. It's a day away. Because I think they're bringing direct flights at the moment because my brother lives Western Australia, which is Perth. But at the time, I think total flying hours is something like 18 or 19, but then you do have like a 4-hour layover in between. So it does, it's like a day away. It's a long flight, yeah. So that was like my first time kind of traveling on a plane really far on my own. But I went backpacking after my first contract when I was 24 for 6 weeks around. I did Thailand. I stopped off in Macau, Hong Kong, Singapore. And then I went over to Australia as well because I was over there. But yeah, I did Thailand on my own, which was crazy. That was awesome.
Why Asia? Anything specific?
I honestly just always been drawn to that part of the world. I think I've just always been interested in culture, and just, you know, all about culture and style, and just, yeah, I just was so exciting just to do something different and go as far away as possible. I've been to America, I've been to Australia, I've been to most of Europe, I'd done most things, and Asia was somewhere that I hadn't touched at all. And I was just so excited to see something different, and also just it feels more accessible and cheaper as well. It was probably one of the cheapest things to do, because apart from the flight getting over there, when you're traveling around Asia, it is, I mean, you can live for a week including hotels on £15, or at least you could back then. I don't know, you know, how much has changed now, but you're talking, that was 8 years ago maybe. But it was that was insane. That was an adrenaline rush. That was, yeah, incredible, terrifying but incredible.
Yeah, so you were completely alone. Did you, like, over-plan the trip just so that you felt more comfortable? Or, like, how did that work?
Yeah, planning and everything.
So I had stop-offs and met up with people every now and then. So like I said, I jumped over to Australia for a week to visit my brother because I was over there anyway. One of my friends was actually... The only reason I went to Macau, which I'll be honest and hold my hands up, I'd never really heard anything about Macau before. But Macau is like... I mean, you guys probably know this, but it's its own little island country, where all of the Chinese go to do all the gambling, because gambling is illegal in China. And my friend was working a show called House of Dancing Water in one of the casinos there. And it's still to this day one of the best shows I've ever seen. It was incredible. Like, but what is crazy about it is, you know, the Chinese really love thrill factors. So this show is all like beautiful ballet and dancing, and the whole stage like an arena, and the stage just disappears into this huge massive Olympic pool, and they have all these divers, and it's insane. It's the most amazing spectacle, as well as talent I've ever seen. But then out of nowhere, these trucks just come out and start doing all of these massive like jumps and like these car tricks, and it doesn't fit at all. But you know, they love it. They absolutely love it.
They need the spectacle.
Yeah, that's what they go to see, and it was incredible. So my friend was working there, but I think I got to see her maybe after the shows, or, you know, she got me back to see the show backstage and listen to all of the calls, which was amazing, with some cans. That was incredible. But I spent a lot of time in Macau on my own, waiting for her to finish work. And there was this terrifying moment when I went down to Kolowan, which is so the island is like 3 parts. So you have like mainland Macau, Taipa, and Kolowan are where the famous bears are. And I thought, I'll take the bus down there, it's fine. Now, Macau is the type of place where you don't need to be afraid to get attacked or anything like that, but you will just be left on your own. The thing is, you're not likely to be attacked, but you're also not likely to be saved. You just kind of get ignored. And that was insane. It was incredible. It was an incredible experience. But I remember I went to visit this cemetery, which was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. And I just saw this little shadow of this little dog. I thought, I love dogs, this is great. However, you know, rabies, and they're rabid dogs, and they're all strays. And I literally saw this shadow of bigger dogs coming towards me. There was about 12 dogs, and they were just all different heights, different sizes, huge. And they it was like something out of a movie. They kind of just stood still and like licked their lips and looked at me. And I thought, don't make eye contact with them, turn around and slowly walk away, right? Because if you run from a dog, they're going to chase you. So I thought, just run. And I could hear the little paws walking behind me on the floor. Oof. And then I thought, you know what? And they're getting faster. And I thought, I'm not even being chancing, because there's nobody around me. I'm in the middle of nowhere. Don't speak the language. Nobody even attempts to speak English. So I'm just going to have to run. I've never ran so fast in my life. I thought I was something out of a film. I was jumping over cars. I literally found this huge Jeep and jumped over this Jeep and sat behind it and just let the dogs run past me. I thought I was going to die. I literally thought, I'm about to get attacked by a bunch of rabid dogs. They were, that was terrifying. But it was an experience as well. But I saw, it's crazy.
Before we get back to the episode, we have something important to share with you.
As you all know by now,
This podcast was started as a way for Alex and I to connect while we are apart.
Little did we know how much the podcast would grow into something new.
In order to increase the quality of our content, it takes a great deal of time, attention, and hard work.
That's where you come in.
If you want to support us, we have set up a way for you to do just that.
Go to anchor.fm/we have a lot to talk about and click on support.
You will then have the option to contribute however much you would like to in order to support us and this podcast.
We already have a few supporters and are so thankful for your contribution.
Now, let's get back to the episode.
So you crouch under the jeep or next to it, and they just run like in the movie, and
So
that was it.
in
Really?
my head,
Yeah.
I did a sprint somersault, backflip. I did all of that over the Jeep in slow motion. I was Tomb Raider up against, I was right up against that car. It was amazing. What I actually did was clamber over this car and then just get behind a corner, shaking and crying my eyes out, and they just carried on running. I was so lucky. But yeah, it was insane.
I guess great transition now would be, was there ever a place on your solo travel adventures, either of you, where, obviously this example, but a time where you were like, this isn't a good idea, I don't know what I'm doing, and how did you resolve that situation?
Yeah, I do remember one thing actually when I was in New York, and it was Halloween. And all the students had agreed to meet up somewhere downtown. Now, for anybody who doesn't know New York, it's greatly arranged with the avenues and the streets. It's really easy to find your way around. New York, the most part of Manhattan is like streets and avenues, and you can find your way around really easily. But downtown is very different. Mm-hmm. And downtown is all... I would say European.
Yes.
It's like it's not just straightforward how the streets work. So for Halloween, it was so busy. The streets were packed with people, and I couldn't find, and I think there was also some Halloween parade going on or something. Yeah, it was just probably really busy, and I was walking around and I couldn't find anybody. So I decided to go back to my apartment. Really sad. I was all dressed up, had a great outfit, decided to leave and go home because I was like... also, back then, there was no, WhatsApp, I think, or there was no... I don't know why I had nobody to call, or if we just said... Why are you laughing?
The outfit, it really got her.
Yeah.
I had the best outfit on.
No,
Your greatest tragic travel adventure.
I looked like a corpse schoolboy. So I had a really schoolboy outfit, but my head was painted as a corpse, which had taken me forever. So, but the point of my story...
She lost it.
Why are you laughing? Anyway, the point of my story was I got really lost and decided to go back home. And I was walking down there by the harbor place, I think.
Yep.
And that's the first time, and I think actually the only time in my life where I had the feeling that somebody was walking behind me and was following me, on purpose. And because I just remember that at one point I was like, I just didn't feel safe. So I started running really hard, which maybe I shouldn't have done, but I did, and it worked. But that was actually...
I was just thinking, in your freaking costume, you look like fucking Satan.
I know. I probably looked really... He was probably more scared of me than I was of him, because there was this corpse schoolboy person running around the harbor. It's like a madman.
The thing is as well, Bjorn, I have to intercept it because people that don't know you don't realise just how tall you are, and you have the longest legs in the world.
Yeah.
But I was scared of him. I don't even remember what he looked like or what it was, but it was, it's just this instinct feeling when you feel in danger. And I was just like, nope, gotta run.
Yeah.
So I ran.
Run, little schoolboy from hell.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I had a feeling, New York is weird that way, because if there's enough people out, it's actually, you feel less likely that anyone's following you, even though probably that's the best time for someone to follow you, because you're like, there's people around. How late was it?
How late?
Yeah.
I think not even that late. I think it was really like 11 or 12, something like that. But it's true. Like in Manhattan, I have to say, I've never felt unsafe really ever, because I would always go out to a club on Monday night, and we went to this comedy show, and then I would walk back home on my own. And I was always surprised at how empty it actually was on the streets in the middle of the night. Like around 12:30 at night, there was just construction workers, and that was it. But, for what they call the city that never sleeps, is like, it definitely slept a lot of times at night. I was like, oh, there's almost nobody. But I never felt unsafe. But that time I did. But hey, I ran and probably looked like a maniac to most people seeing me run. But okay.
Oh, man.
So yeah.
So how about you, Anna? Besides the dogs, anything else? Maybe even on that trip?
Do you know, I was in Thailand, I was on Koh Samui, and I decided to go for a little trek. I signed up to one of these tours, and I was on my own, and there was lots of different people from all over the world, and it was really cool, and we were walking just like through this, like the middle of the jungle, we were just going looking at bats in caves and nature and all of this, and I had flip-flops on, and my flip-flop just completely, the tongue, how it goes through into the sole of the shoe, that just completely ripped off, and I was like, amazing, this is fantastic, great, brilliant. Didn't have anybody with me, and the tour guide was really lovely, but she must have only been she looked 12. She was probably older, but she looked 12. And the kindest girl. And she just, I then ended up limping with just one shoe. She took my flip-flop off and just fixed it there and then in front of me, which is incredible. With just using the bamboo and things that she was peeling off trees as she was going, and making this brand new flip-flop. It was incredible.
Oh my God.
But then I was like behind because I was hobbling along, and then she just yelled at me to stop. And there was this snake that was coming down from this tree just in front, and it had literally separated me from the rest of the group. And I was just like, I have one shoe, and it's not even a shoe, it's a flip-flop, so I can't run.
Can't even run.
People in front of me, I don't really want to go back on my own. I was absolutely terrified. It was so surreal, but I was also terrified. I mean, I make it out like it's this big thing. It was just like the tiny little green snake. It was very small. It was very small, but it was very real, and there was no glass between me and it, and I was very aware of that. So that was terrifying. So that was very...
You and animals, you really aren't allowed to travel alone if there's animals involved.
No, not at all. I mean, it was very, I don't know, I'm such a wuss anyways. It was great, but at the same time, I just felt like an absolute idiot. I was like the only British person there, and I was like, oh, stupid little British girl, just here on her own, terrified, broken. I went on a trek in flip-flops, first of all. Like, nobody else had flip-flops on. I'm an idiot. And then afterwards, I stayed behind, and there was a part of this tour was at the end, you could pay a little bit. I think it was like 350 baht extra, which at the time I think 50 baht is about £1. So I don't know. It was about £6 maybe, about $10, and to go on a safari on an elephant. And at the time I was 24, and it was before I became vegetarian, and so conscious of what they do to the animals. I was like, this is going to be so cool. And it was the worst experience of my life. It was just me, nobody else stayed behind, and it was this one young lad who had like a bull hook, and like the elephant just seemed so beaten, and I've never felt so guilty in my life. It was horrendous. It was just horrific, and that's one thing that I think I really regret doing. I actually really hate myself for not turning around and saying, do you know what, just keep the money, I'm not getting on that animal, like you need to leave that poor animal alone. But yeah, so I mean, it's slightly different. I think the thing that I was like, God, why am I doing this? I would never go on a trek in a foreign country in flip-flops, where there's definitely a lot more creatures than there are here in England. Like the worst thing here in England is a wasp, and that's all we have. Like we have nothing else. So
yeah,
that was it.
So how were you jumping from the country to the country on that trip? Like plane or?
Plane, boats. One of my favourite things, and I'll just tell you quickly, you take boats, and they're so easy, and they only run certain times of the day, and then sometimes they'll be cancelled last minute depending on, the tides or how rough the sea is. I remember taking a boat from... I think it was from Koh Phi Phi. It's on the Andaman coast of Thailand, over back to Phuket. and I was on my own, and it was just me, and it was like a tiny little boat, and there was all of these Thai locals and fishermen, and it was all Thai families, and I was the only person there that wasn't local. And this family just kind of took me in and was feeding me all of these amazing fruits that I've never seen before. I couldn't even tell you what they were now. And it was just so incredible. And the only thing I could say was Kapun Ka, which was like, thank you. And that's the only thing I had learned, which I'm really ashamed of actually, on my whole travels. And they were just feeding me and feeding me and feeding me. And then I think they were definitely talking about me and making fun of me. And they probably done lots of things with the fruit. And I just couldn't understand. And I didn't care because it was so surreal. It was just so surreal. And it was so nice to be taken in by this family of Thais. And they were just feeding me all of this fruit, and I was exhausted, and I had one flip-flop that was still made out of bamboo. I was just so ready. I was so ready by the time to go home. I was ready to go home, but it was it was mainly boats, or a friend of mine gave me an app, and I could literally, if I had enough money by the end of that week, I would get a flight somewhere. But it was trains, and the trains are disgusting.
Yeah, can imagine.
Yeah, and you sleep and you're all on top of each other and they're filthy, but they're really fast and efficient, and if you're traveling, that's kind of the experience as well. So, but I mainly saved up for like the odd flight and the boat as well, because I was going around the islands.
So for both of you, we're talking about like your first solo trips, but are there any like this could also include the cruise, but any really notable trips that you've ever taken that you experienced on your own? So like if it was on like the cruise ship that you like went out on your own to experience.
If I'll start. There's one thing that immediately comes to mind for me, which was I was lucky enough to be a part of the world cruise that Aida did, the second world cruise that they did in 2018. And finally, we had a cast of some people that really didn't care that much where we were. They were just like, oh, we're in this cool island in the middle of the South Pacific. Oh, well, I'm going to stay in. And I was just like, what? You've got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
And we were on a Robinson Crusoe. That's how we say it in Dutch. I think in English, they say Robinson Crusoe, or I don't know exactly. But it's this island right off the coast of Chile. And you have that one, and then you have Easter Island. And we were on Robinson Crusoe, and everybody wanted to go to this restaurant to eat lobster. And I was like, guys, you can eat lobster everywhere in the world. And there was this massive mountain that you could climb up. And on the other side, there was supposed to be a beautiful view. Now, usually I do all the research. I could not for the life of me find a picture of the view of that mountain online. So I was just gonna go for it. Nobody else wanted to join me. It had just been raining. So this was like some Rembu bush track that was just... I remember having this long walking stick because somebody came towards me. They came down the mountain. I went up the mountain, and she said, here, take this stick. You're going to need it. I was like, okay.
Jesus.
So I took the stick as a walking stick and afterwards I was so happy because there were some parts that were so slippery because of the rain. And so I climbed up that mountain all on my own. And it was, when I got on top, it was one of the things that I remember most from every travel that I ever did of that view. And I was just like, oh my God, because the mountain going up, it was just like trees and bushes, and it was nothing pretty. And then on top, on the other side of the mountain, it was just, I don't know, there was like nothing, but it was all grass and stone and rocks, and it was just the most beautiful thing. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm on top of this mountain all on my own. I mean, there were other tourists around, but none of them that I knew. So yeah, that was really an awesome experience. And I came down the mountain. I was like, well, guys, I hope you enjoyed your lobster because you missed out on a huge thing. And when I showed the pictures, everybody was like, oh my God. I was like, I told you so. But oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that for me is one thing that immediately always comes to mind when I think of what you asked. Yeah.
That sounds great.
And you also are like the best photographer. And we're definitely going to link your Instagram to this episode because people really have to check out all of the places you've been. We went on one really long adventure day together in Madeira.
Madeira. Huh?
Ah, Madeira.
We went to the Nun Valley.
Yes, you and I went there.
Yeah.
I remember.
But then we also went to the botanical gardens. I mean, we went everywhere, but like,
Yeah.
I would say like if you ever get the chance to like take a cruise, like you have to, or travel in general, you have to take advantage of any time you can get alone to experience something.
Yeah.
It's like life changing. You can have like those little exciting moments like you're talking about, like just not just climbing a mountain, but climbing a mountain instead of going to the restaurant sometimes is worth it.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's definitely like I
Yeah.
would say like cruise ship story because like sometimes people like don't want to go and they're like fuck it, I will go alone. Fuck
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, because especially if you are on the other side of the planet and
Oh, yeah.
you on an island in the middle of the South Pacific, you know you will 99% never ever in your life be there again, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly,
It costs so much money to get there on your own. And when you're there with a cruise ship, it's like, well, here you are. So I
Yeah.
was like, I'm not going to waste this opportunity and choose to get, I mean, hey, to each their own, but I was like, I will pass on the food and I will go and explore, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
so happy I did. But
Yeah.
thank you for linking my Instagram. Yes, if people like photography, then definitely check it out. It's
Yeah.
I do my best.
Yeah. For everyone who's like really missing travel right now, they can definitely, you know, live vicariously through your past. So Anna,
Anything
Um,
that comes to mind?
So, I mean, cruise ships, I pretty much went out with people. I mean, I met my husband on my second contract, and then just, yeah, if I was going outside, I was going out with him. Unless we argued, and then I'd probably go out with Bjorn. But other than that,
yeah.
but I will say, Bjorn, because bless you, one thing that you really wanted to see on our last contract was the Azores. You really wanted to go up to that.
Oh,
Remember, and me and Rob
that's
got the most
another one.
perfect view up there, and you just didn't get to see it at all.
This is a fun
Yeah.
story. Shall I share this story?
That was awesome. Oh my god.
Do you remember that?
That was
So-
such a fun day. How did I forget
And
about
we had
that?
we had toast as
It was
well. We had
beautiful.
toast at that little cafe down
Yes.
in in the crater.
Yes.
It was so beautiful.
Yeah. If anyone ever goes to Puente Delgado, I actually mentioned that on another episode, I think, when we were
Yes,
talking about the most beautiful, like,
Yeah, I think
if this place could never change, I said that place because, oh my god, it was just so beautiful.
There is something about Azores.
Yes, and the pictures that I was taking, I was like, this looks like I've heavily filtered these pictures, but it's just like,
I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you got this beautiful picture of this beautiful view, Rob.
We had the best time.
So maybe good thing to note is, because otherwise people probably won't understand, the backstory of this is, I had found this viewpoint and I was telling everybody, this is where we should go. And then you have different IPMs on the ship, you know, where you have to stay on the ship. So not everybody could join. But at this moment, I was like, I don't care who's coming with me. I'm going to this viewpoint. Now, I took a taxi there on my own. The weather was terrible. There was fog everywhere. But hey, I wasn't, you know, so we got to the viewpoint, couldn't see a damn thing. It was completely white. But I was like, hey, never mind. We will be back here again in 2 weeks and I will see this viewpoint. Then 2 weeks later, I go back again. I think the day before you guys went.
Yeah, we hired
And
a
it was
car.
and it was beautiful weather, but I had IPM, so I couldn't leave the ship. Beautiful weather, sunshine, all of the view. And then I was like, I'm going to go the next day. Next day, fog. All the fog again. And I never saw the view of that place that you just described.
you can
But
check
hey.
out my pictures if you want, Bjorn.
Oh, well, you win some, you lose some. That's
Yeah.
actually, luckily, I mean, that is the only time that has happened to me. Because I find that funny as well. On Facebook, you often see these posts of like going to these great places and being disappointed because of the weather, you know? Have you ever
yeah.
seen those? It's like a compilation of like all of these, like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco being completely invisible because of the fog and all that.
Yeah.
I've always been lucky except for that one time in the Azores where I experienced that.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for the second half of this episode.
Thanks for listening to this episode of We Have a Lot to Talk About. We have new episodes coming out every Monday on most podcast platforms and on YouTube as well. And don't forget to subscribe, like, rate, and review us, as well as give us a follow on Instagram at We Have a Lot to Talk About Podcast. Talk to you next time.